What's up guys, Cass here from GiveWave Studios, and on this one I'm going to show you guys how to turn these pieces of foam that you see right here into this awesome IVYSAUR plant prop that you can use on your furry companion, your best friend, your doggy, your doggo, or even yourself really. If you get the patterns, you can always scale this up to whatever size you'd like. As you can see, there's some strap underneath to go under your pet's belly, and I've also added a little on-off switch here on the side that allows me to turn on and off the solar beam attack. Okay, and also the parts are encased in metal wire, so they're completely customizable as far as what position the leaves stay in and whatnot. Alright, let's get it. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do is sand down all of my edges, only because these were laser cut for me. So if you happen to have just bought the pattern, when you cut this out you don't have to worry about it because you would have done it with a knife that doesn't burn your edges. But if you get the DIY kit, for example, you should definitely sand your edges, especially the parts that are going to glue to each other. So I'm going to sand all the way around on everything and catch you guys for the next step. Okay, once we've sanded our piece, it should look something like this. Now, you'll notice that I have also slightly beveled the edge here a little bit. It's so that when we put these two pieces together, they look like separate parts. So it's a little detail that you can add in if you'd like to. That'll make the overall trunk look a lot better. And you can do this with a Dremel or a sanding stick, or if you have machinery, whatever the case may be. Okay, so you guys can tell the difference between that slightly beveled edge and the straight edge that we have here. Okay, all I'm doing is sanding it down a little bit with a Dremel. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and seal our foam that we just sanded, heat it up. Okay, we're going to curve this piece onto itself, kind of roll it onto itself like so, and we're going to glue these two ends here to themselves. So put some contact cement on both sides as usual. Again, you can do this with hot glue, but I recommend contact cement because it glues down so much flatter and with less seams or any gunky areas. So I'm going to let that cool. Give it a minute. Okay, I'm going to grab a piece and glue it. And we're going to do the exact same thing to this piece, and then we're just going to glue them on top of each other. Right? So that should be pretty easy enough for you guys to do after you've seen me do this one. So I'm going to fast forward through that step and catch you guys for the next one. Okay, and then we should have something like this as like the little trunk of your piece. So now what we're going to do is we're going to work on the leaves real quick. I'm going to do one with you guys, and then the rest is going to be the same. So let's get started on that. Okay, so for the leaf, what you're going to do is you can, if you have at home some hangers, you can do this with like the wire of some wire hangers that you have at home, or you could go out to like a Home Depot and get a decently stiff wire. I don't recall what gauge this is. I will leave it annotated underneath here. But what you're going to want to do is either with your wire hanger or your gauge that you purchase, you're going to cut up a couple pieces. You don't want to take it to the very tip of the leaf. You want to kind of leave that hanging a little bit, but take it as close to the back edge as possible. Cut that out. Okay. And this wire does not come with the DIY kit. This is something that you can find in your own household or that you'll have to acquire. But two ways of doing this. There is one where you just hot glue this to the middle here, okay? And another one where you can use the strip that comes with the DIY kit, or one of the strips that comes with the DIY kit, and you can barge it in place. As you can tell here, I've kind of run my finger on the edge, and you can tell where the metal actually lives inside of this. Or third option, if you bought the pattern and you don't like any of these two looks, what you could do is just cut yourself out an extra 2mm leaf, and basically doing the same concept here but with the entirety of the thing. That way it looks nice on both sides, okay, one way or another. So what's going to happen with this is that this is going to allow you to bend the leaf and give it a little bit of life when we put it together, okay? And it's going to work for both versions, either if you do it with the hot glue, or if you do it with the strip, or if you do the two leaves together, okay? So I'm going to fast forward through those steps since they're pretty straightforward, and I'll catch you guys for the next one. So just in case it's not clear what I'm doing, you want to put a bead of hot glue down first. Put your wire on top of it so that it doesn't shift or move around, okay? And once that's cool, or completely cooled down, you're going to go over it again on both sides. You're going to do the left side and the right side, and you're going next to it and over, next to and over the wire, because you're trying to completely encase it in hot glue. You do want to make sure that that first bead that you put down to hold the metal wire in place is cool, or has cooled down before you do this, or else putting the fresh glue might melt it again and shift it around as you're working with it. So that's all I am doing for this piece. Okay, the barge process is not too dissimilar. What I'm going to do is put the strip down in the middle. You can use a Sharpie or a pen or a pencil, or even just like your nail, just to make a quick line, like left and right of the piece of foam, so that you can see what the center of your part's going to be. Again, we're going to cut a piece to length. So what you want to do when you cut your first piece to length, just cut all of the other ones the same length, so that you have all four of them together. Okay, so from here to here, I'm going to go ahead and cut that out. That's that. Okay, you want to try and straighten it as much as you can. Okay, so that's nice enough. And so now I know where to put my glue, or I know where the edge of my glue needs to be. So I'm just going to go ahead and put barge down on this side, place it in the middle, put barge on the inside of my piece, place it over it, and just kind of run my fingers towards the edges left and right to make sure that it sticks right there in the middle. Okay. Okay, once you've finished with your leaf, you're going to go ahead and seal the surface with your heat gun as usual. Okay, till it's nice and glossy. You don't necessarily have to do the back piece of this. And while it's still warm, if you guys wanted to, you can definitely start folding the edges of the leaves a little bit, crinkling it to kind of give it a little bit more of an organic feel to it, if you want to. But you want to do this now while the foam, while you've just heated the foam, so that it tends to keep it a little bit more by the time you plastic dip it and can hold on to that. Alright, so then you get this nice uneven kind of look to the leaves that makes it look a little bit more natural and organic. And as you can see, I've done that to most of my other parts too. So if you want to, extra detail that you can do. But now that these leaves are done, now we're going to work on the vine whips. The whips with an H. Okay. And same thing as before, we're going to cut 2 pieces of wire that are long enough to fit inside of our strips. And use the one that you've cut up to measure out the second one. That way you know they are even and you get it out of the way. Okay, once that's done, same technique as before, we're going to barge this in place and we're going to close it over itself. Okay, so super easy. I'm going to fast forward through this step and catch you guys for the next one. Okay, so as you can see, I made a nice thin little piece that I can bend into any shape. So I'm just gonna slow it down and show you guys what it is that I am doing. So I'm gonna put my wire right down the middle, press it down so that the barge holds it. I mean, the contact cement holds it. I don't know why I keep using the brand name instead of what it actually is. Okay, and then we're gonna fold this right down the middle. Fold it shut, stick it to itself, making sure that the wire stays in the middle throughout this process as much as possible. Almost there. Alright, once we have that, turn it over to its side, kind of run your finger or your nail towards the spine where the wire is to make sure that it's making good contact where it's closest to the wire. Okay, you can do this with like a pen or again, just the edge of your nail will do just fine for this. Alright, now once it's made that good contact, you'll notice that here that doesn't look too clean. So what we can do is grab a pair of scissors and you're just making a clean straight cut at this point. Clean-esque straight cut. And you can always sand this, Dremel it to clean it up a little bit more and make it a little bit more cylindrical, whatever the case may be. So as you can see, this is not the cleanest, but I'm going to go ahead and sand this down nice and smooth so I can get a nicer overall shape. So I'm going to go ahead and fast forward through that step. Okay, so if you guys, I don't know if you guys can tell the difference, but this is much nicer. It's a much nicer cylindrical finish than this is with these rough edges. Okay, and you can do this with a Dremel as well if you don't have, a belt sander like I'm doing, or even with just regular sandpaper. It's just going to take a little bit more time. All right. Alright, so once your vines are to your liking, what we're going to do is basically wedge them in between these two guys. You don't want to put all of the body of your vine in here. You only want to go maybe about a quarter of the way in. Okay, and then we're just going to glue these two pieces shut. Okay, so use your contact cement. I'm going to fast forward through that step and catch you guys for the next one. Alright, there we go. Now we have some vines that we can just kind of bend and modify and put however we'd like. Again, we're going to want to leave this as straight as possible, just so it's easier to paint, but that is basically what this step is. And depending on how you got your seam to show up here, if it's, you know, good enough to keep like this, or if you need to do a little bit more sanding, you can go ahead and do that, and that'll be it. So this last piece here, this is going to go under our trunk, and I don't know how well you guys can see the inside here, but you see these tabs? These tabs are going to go ahead and glue them to the inside of this. But that's after we've painted everything, so we'll get to that eventually. I just wanted to mention what's going to be happening with this piece. So since we are going to be painting this and plasti dipping it, again, we want to make sure that we go ahead and seal our parts with heat. And if you guys wanted also, you could add a little bit more detail to this. So if you grab an X-Acto blade and you just slightly cut into the foam, don't cut all the way in, but just like slightly score the surface, you can do a little something like this, where when you heat it up, your score marks will open up a little bit, and it'll show the detail that you've put on there, which will show through in the paint. So now you have like the little veins of the leaf, and you can do that on both sides or just one side, whichever you'd like. All right, so that's one way to add a little bit more detail to this. So we'll make sure we heat this part up also. Okay, so we've got our trunk, we've got our vines, we have the base to our trunk, we have our leaves, and now for these guys, for the petals, what you guys are going to do is basically fold them onto themselves like this, where these 2 points, I don't know if you guys can tell, but where these 2 points kind of overlap. This makes it bulge out like this, but it also gives it an extra smooth fold. So just make sure that one edge is tucked in behind the other, and then you're just going to glue them at the tips or the bottoms right there. Okay, you can heat this and shape it a little bit if you'd like. If you guys can tell, I've already done it to some of the other ones. See how this is flat, this is a little bit more curved. All I did was, I'll show you guys as an example, heat this up, on both sides. Okay, and once it was heated, I just literally with my thumbs just kind of put a little bit of a curve to the petal. Nothing too serious. It can be super subtle. You don't really need it to be very bulbous. You just want it to have semblance of a curved shape. And then you're going to go ahead and glue one piece on top of another, like so. Okay, and you're going to do that for all of the pieces. So I'm going to go ahead and fast forward through that step and catch you guys for the next. Okay, so now in order to put these together, what we're going to do is kind of overlap these right where they all meet up. So as you can see, I've marked my pieces 1, 2, 3, 4. So what I'm doing is putting them together like this, and then I'm going to try and figure out what is the best way that it works for me. So I'll grab some tape, masking tape or clear tape, something that won't destroy the foam, but that will allow it to just kind of have a slight tack to it. So we're gonna put our pieces with like a little bit of a triangle left at the edge there. Okay, so there's one. And this is one of those things that it's really up to you. My instructions at this point are pretty much just guidelines. If you want to do this any other way, by all means go for it. If you want to make it look plumper, you can definitely make like extras of these to make it more full. So there's all sorts of different things that you can do. Now I'm just trying to get it to just fit nicely. So 1, 2, 3. Okay, trying to keep it as equal as possible. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, and with the last one overlapping the first one, like so. Okay, those are the steps to follow to do it. Again, if you want this to be a little wider, you can spread these out a little bit and just arrange them slightly differently. But this is the gist of what we're trying to do here. So it's really up to you how you leave this one. And you don't want to glue it at the top here. You want to enable the petals to just kind of overlap each other. You really only want to glue your bottom. So once you've figured out your shape, this will be pretty much it. And then this will go on top. This will go right here. And we're starting to look like something at this point. Alright, so I'm going to fast forward through the steps of actually putting this together real quick, and I'll catch you guys for the next one. So, once you've assembled your petal and you know where everything is, you want to go ahead and mark all of the areas that are not getting glued. Okay, and I didn't glue these exceptionally well on purpose because I'm going to want to take them apart. Okay, so go ahead and take that apart, because now what I'm going to be able to do is paint these separately, which will make it a lot easier, and then we can assemble once it's done. But while I have this way, I'm going to go ahead and score my piece here at the bottom. It's a slight score, and then score Roman numerals. So that's 2, 1, 2, 3, and then I'll score the area that I know doesn't get glued. Same thing for here, 1. Okay, score the area I know that doesn't get glued. Okay, 4, score the area that doesn't get glued. I'll hit this with the heat gun one more time just to open up those slight cuts that I just made. That way they're a little bit more visible to me after I paint them. Okay? And it doesn't matter that I score them there, because that part is going to go inside of the trunk. So any way you wish to mark these towards the bottom there so that it's easier to reassemble once it's painted, by all means go for it. Because again, you won't see any of this down there, so I'm not really too upset that it's gunky or that anything like that. As long as I know how to reassemble it, that's really the important part. So I have all of my pieces and I am ready to plasti dip. So alright, I'm in the paint booth now. So these are the parts that I'm going to plasti dip black. Okay. And then here, the petals, since the foam was already white, I'm going to plasti dip it white so that I don't have to plasti dip a lighter color on top of the black and get it all like that. So if you can make the petals out of, you know, an already pink 2mm foam, that'd be perfect, because then that way you don't even have to paint it. You might just do like some highlights and shadows and stuff like that. But in my case, it's white, so I'm going to do white plasti dip. This is basically all of the paints I'm going to be using, minus the textured one that I'll show you guys, and a B-roll that I'll be using for the trunk. And these are my colors. I have a satin green apple, a satin ballet like pink. I have gloss jungle green, a darker green to do a little bit of mixing with the colors, and also a darker pink, or more like a cranberry, to do some mixing with the paint. So I'm going to go ahead and fast forward through the steps of painting these pieces and catch you guys for the end result. Right, coming back from the paint booth, we have our leaves and our petals. Make sure your paint is completely dry. Alright, now let's assemble this. Okay, so first we'll merge these two guys. Alright, so with the pointed edges, we're just going to bend those inwards and glue them to the inside of the walls of the trunk. Okay, and for this I'm just going to use hot glue. So I'm going to go ahead and fast forward through that step. Catch you guys for the next one. Okay, so with that out of the way, we have our trunk. Now we'll work on our big leaves, and what we'll do is we'll put this so it touches the bottom, and we'll figure out where that fold is. We'll fold our leaf out that way. And you guys are just going to decide where it is that you will glue this stem to the inside. Bend your leaf, start giving it some shape, and hot glue everything inside, or you can contact cement it to the inside as well. Alright, so I'll fast forward through that step. Catch you guys for the next one. We're done with this. So one thing that I messed up on, I'm pretty sure I messed up on. I put this down first, this little foliage thing. That should have been second. So you guys should definitely put the big leaves to the trunk first, and then this goes on top of the leaves, and then the flower goes on top of that. So yeah, but you know, it still looks good. So we're gonna keep going with that. So now we're going to move on to our petal thing. Remember, we had marked our pieces. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and start gluing my pieces, because I already had the sides that I know I'm going to leave open. So I'm going to do this with you can do this with hot glue, you can do this with contact cement. So I'm going to do a little bit of hot glue. Go ahead and stick that in place. So a little bit of hot glue. Put that together. Some glue. Put that together. Everything comes full circle. We have our flower that we can put in here, and you can glue that to the edge. You can also close this if you'd like. I am going to close mine, but before I do, I'm gonna go ahead and stuff the inside with this kind of refractive cellophane paper that is super light, so that if you do see anything in between the petals, you see this kind of magical glitter inside of the thing. And this is something that you can also you can toss a light in there, like these multicolored LED fairy lights, for example. I'll have links in the description where you guys can grab these. And there's also links to one that actually changes colors and goes through different modes and stuff like that. So I'm just gonna fast forward through the process of stuffing all of that in there. Okay, now that that's out the way, we can pop this right out, turn on our lights. As you can see, solar beam. All right, for our pet, for our best friend. Okay, so we'll put this aside for now, and we're going to focus on the vines themselves. So this, again, you're going to start giving this some personality as soon as you glue it to the inside here. So what I like to do is just make sure that the seam is facing the back. Okay, so pick where the front is, and these are going to come out on either side of the front facing leaf. So here, I'm just going to stick that in there and hot glue that in place. Okay. Fast forward through this step. Alright, so while we have this upside down, there's a piece of scrap that comes with your kit also. Because everyone's dog is different and everyone's leash is different, everyone is going to have to find a way to attach this to their pet. But one of the easiest ways that I've found to do it is to just glue a piece of foam across the front and the back, or what's going to be the front and in the back of your prop, and then you can just run an elastic band under this and under your pet's belly. So what I'm going to do is just place the piece on top of the base here, and while I have it there, I'm just going to kind of mark with my nail or a pen where that meets. I'm just going to cut that out. Okay, so you should have like the curves of the circle there. So I'll cut that out. Okay, and then I'll just glue this in place. And this can also serve for a plate to hold your little battery pack if you decide to put a light in with this. If you're going to use this method, I would probably do this with contact cement more so than hot glue, just so it's a little stronger in case, you know, during like your pet wobbling or anything like that, it doesn't eventually come off of them, or you can just like reinforce it on the inside. However you want to go about it. Alright, so we have this going on with the front. Make sure we have that coming up and out. Again, up and out. And then you can just position the vines however which way you like. Usually away from your dog's peripherals, because they tend to just kind of look back as if like something's chasing them. Alright, so we got that done here, and now we can go ahead and glue our flower permanently. So this is what I was talking about for the your light pack. If you do end up getting one, you could put a little piece of Velcro on this that you attach here. That way it doesn't flop around too much, and you can always access it from underneath. So I'm going to do that, fast forward through those steps, and then catch you guys for the finished product. Okay, so pretty much done here. I decided to take the switch out from underneath this strap because it was a little difficult to access, so it made more sense to put it right here on the edge. That way the switch is a lot more accessible, so it can be turned on and off like that a lot easier. So just from the bottom, You guys can see on off, on off. And then I'll just rearrange the top here to make sure that everything is nice and equal. So once you've figured out a position, these are glued separately, but you can glue all 4 of them in one spot if you want to keep this consistent. So I'm going to leave it a little free and open, and there we have it, solar beam for our pet. All right, and yeah, that's it for this one, guys. I hope this was useful to you. I hope you guys learned something. If you guys bought the pattern from the website, appreciate the support. If you found this on Etsy, also appreciate the support, but go to the website. Stuff is cheaper on the website anyways. And if you bought the DIY kit, also appreciate the support. I hope the tutorial was useful and helped you put everything together nicely. Again, this doesn't have to be for a pet. You can use this for human cosplays as well. And if you guys have any questions, comments, or concerns, feel free to let them be known in the comment section. I try to get back to those as often as possible. All right, so this has been Cass from GiveWave Studios, and I will catch you guys on the next one. Cheers. Solar beam. Fine whip. Do it. Pee on something.